Okay, the first set of angles that we're talking about is what we call a linear pair. And linear pairs are formed by angles that share a common side. And they're based upon the idea of a circle. We know a circle has 360 degrees. We have a circle that's cut into basically 4 pieces. And we know half of a circle equals 180, right? So you can see there's 180 on the bottom half, and we can see that we have 180 on the top half with looking at the black line. So let's take a look at this. Now you see the red line cuts out 180 into 2 pieces. And let's say, for instance, if that first larger angle is 120, that leaves 60 for the other side, the right-hand side of that angle. Now if I look on the bottom side, there's 120 for the big piece, and then that will leave 60 for the small piece because it has to equal 180 degrees. And so this forms what we call linear pairs. Linear pairs add 180 degrees, and they are formed by intersecting lines. Okay. Let's go on to the next piece, and we're going to look at vertical angles. That's what vertical angles look like, and you can see from looking at the linear pair, they almost are the same thing. They're formed in the same way. And linear pairs form vertical angles. If we look at angles 2 and 3, we can see they're both 60. If I look at angles 1 and 2, they're both 60, and they form off that relationship of linear pairs, because linear pairs add to 180, and they force those angle combinations to exist. So vertical angles, they lay on opposite sides of intersecting lines. You can see we have a set on the top intersecting lines, and we have a set of those vertical angles on the lower set of intersecting lines. And vertical angles are equal. And if you look at that diagram, you can see that. Then the next set of angles that we're talking about are corresponding angles. So let's zoom into those and take a look. You can see the vertical angles hidden inside these corresponding angles. And they call these corresponding angles, if I look at angle number 2, it's on the top right-hand side. So they correspond to the same place with respect to the different pair of intersecting lines. And you can see 4 and 8, they're on the bottom right. So that's why we call them corresponding angles. And corresponding angles are equal. So you see angle 2 equals 60. That means angle 6 equals 60. And you can also see that they exist because of that linear pair relationship that we talked about with the first angles, those linear pairs that add up to equal 180. And they are all equal. Okay, the next set of angles that we want to talk about are alternate exterior angles. Now, alternate exterior angles are on the outside of parallel lines. You can see they're on the outside. So 60 and 60, angles 2 and angle 7 are on the outside, and they're on opposite sides of the transversal. You see how they go across from each other? So they're on alternate exterior, exterior meaning they're on the outside, and alternate means that they're on the opposite side of the transversal. And those angles are congruent. And you can also see the linear pair that exists between those two on the bottom and the top. So it forces angle 2 to be congruent with angle 7 and angle 1 to be congruent to angle 8. So alternate on opposite sides, exterior meaning on the outside. And they are equal. Okay, the next set of angles that we're going to talk about are the alternate interior angles. Again, you can see the linear pair, the 120 and the 60, the 120 and the 60 on the top and the bottom. If you look at the 3 and the 6, they're on opposite sides of the transversal. And they're interior because they're on the inside of the parallel lines. You see they're on the inside. So angle 4 is 120, angle 5 is 120. Angle 3 is 60, and angle 6 is 60. Okay, the last set of angles that we're going to be talking about is interior angles. You can see the linear pair relationship, that 120 plus 60 is 80. We also know that 4 and 6 are corresponding angles, correct? And if you look at the 60 and the 120 on the inside, they equal 180. They're called consecutive interior angles. I like to refer to them as same side interior angles instead of consecutive interior. And just remember, they add to 180 degrees. So let's take a look at this again, the angular relationships. We talked about a linear pair first. From the linear pair, we get vertical angles being formed, and vertical angles, we begin to understand corresponding angles. And from the corresponding angles, we get these two other sets that are called alternate exterior and alternate interior angles. And to go along with our linear pair angles, we have consecutive interior angles. Now, a couple of things to remember. Vertical angles are equal. Corresponding angle pairs are equal. Alternate interior angles are equal. And alternate exterior angles are equal. Now, the consecutive interior angles and the linear pair are different because they add to 180.